Marcus's hand trembled as it hovered over the activation button. He inhaled deeply, the scent of machine oil and ozone heavy in the air. With a decisive nod, he pressed down. The dimension traverser roared to life, its hum vibrating through the lab like a living beast. Reality itself seemed to twist and convulse around him, warping into impossible shapes. Marcus clung to the edge of the console, his vision swimming as a torrent of colors and patterns flooded his senses. Vertigo washed over him like a violent ocean wave, threatening to pull him under into the abyss. With a final, gut-wrenching lurch, the chaos subsided, leaving Marcus gasping for breath. He blinked, trying to clear the dizziness that clung to him like a cloying fog. Slowly, the world came back into focus. He was still in the lab. But it wasn't his lab. The same cluttered workbenches lined the walls, the same cobwebs clung to the corners, but there were differences. Subtle alterations that marked this place as distinct from the one he'd left behind. The scuffed linoleum floor bore a different pattern, and the once familiar equipment now sported unfamiliar modifications. The air was tinged with a faintly sweet chemical smell that he couldn't quite place. A wave of excitement washed over him as realization set in. He'd done it. He'd actually done it. He'd created a functioning dimension traverser and successfully jumped to an alternate reality. As a quantum physicist, Marcus had long been fascinated by the concept of the multiverse. The theory that countless alternate realities existed, each with its own unique set of variables and outcomes. And now, he was living proof that it was more than just a theory. He paced the lab, mentally cataloging each difference he encountered. The thrill of discovery was intoxicating, but Marcus knew that he couldn't linger here. There was still so much to learn, so much to explore. He needed to find a way to control the traverser, to navigate the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. But first, he had to get back home. Marcus returned to the console, his fingers dancing over the controls as he plotted a course for his own dimension. He took a deep breath, steadying himself for the return journey. The traverser hummed to life once more, and reality bent and warped around him. As he prepared to leap back through the void, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the multiverse held, and what dangers might be lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed. What he didn't know was that his actions had already set in motion a chain of events that would lead him to confront a threat far greater than he could ever imagine. A threat that would force him to reevaluate everything he thought he knew about the nature of reality itself. But for now, Marcus was content to savor the thrill of discovery and the satisfaction of a successful experiment. And as he stepped back into his own dimension, he knew that his life would never be the same. The traverser's hum faded, and Marcus found himself in an almost familiar lab. A subtle scent of vanilla and citrus hung in the air, Eve's preferred candle. Her presence, however, remained elusive. He glanced around, taking in the lab's organized chaos. The walls were adorned with whiteboards filled with mathematical symbols and theories, while benches were cluttered with equipment and half-finished experiments. "Eve?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing in the vast space. The silence was unnerving. A sudden rustle from behind made him spin around. Emerging from the shadows, Dr. Evelyn Carter appeared, her dark hair pulled back into a sleek ponytail. Dressed in a crisp lab coat, she looked every bit the formidable physicist she was. "Marcus," she greeted warmly, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of the traverser. "You've done it. You've actually done it." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "I had to see it for myself. I needed to know if it was real." Evelyn approached the traverser, her fingers tracing its sleek surface with awe. "The implications of this are staggering. We're not just looking at parallel universes, Marcus. We're looking at infinite possibilities." As they delved into the ramifications of the traverser, Marcus felt a growing unease. If his invention could traverse the multiverse, what other forces might be at play? And who else might seek to exploit it? His thoughts were interrupted by Evelyn's somber tone. "Marcus, there's something else you need to know. In some of these dimensions, you have counterparts. Echoes, if you will. Some are very much like you, while others have taken vastly different paths." Marcus furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" I've encountered one such echo, Evelyn confessed. His name is Malice. He's not like you, Marcus. He's twisted, consumed by a lust for power and control. A cold shiver ran down Marcus's spine. What does he want? He's discovered the energy released when universes collapse, Evelyn explained, her voice barely above a whisper. He plans to harness that power, to become omnipotent. And if he succeeds... Marcus's eyes hardened. He won't. I won't let him. Determination surged through him, a fierce resolve to protect the multiverse from Malice's destructive ambitions. He would stop at nothing to thwart his malevolent echo, even if it meant venturing deeper into the unknown. I need your help, Eve, Marcus said, his voice steady and resolute. Together, we can find a way to stop him. Evelyn nodded, her expression equally determined. We'll need to gather as much information as we can about Malice and his plans. And we'll need allies, other echoes who share our goal. Marcus looked at his friend, gratitude swelling in his chest. Thank you, Eve. Together, we'll put an end to this threat. As they began to strategize, Marcus knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger. But he also knew that he wouldn't have to face it alone. With Evelyn by his side, he would confront the darkness lurking within the multiverse, and emerge victorious. Marcus's finger hovered over the activation button, the weight of their mission pressing down on him. Beside him, Eve's eyes gleamed with determination. We're ready, she said, her voice steady. Marcus nodded, took a deep breath, and pressed the button. The dimension traverser hummed to life, and the lab around them twisted into a kaleidoscope of colors. Vertigo washed over Marcus as reality warped and reformed. When the world finally snapped back into focus, they found themselves in an alien landscape. The lab was gone, replaced by a lush forest filled with bioluminescent flora that cast an ethereal glow over their surroundings. Above them, 3 moons hung in the sky, their combined gravity causing the foliage to sway gently. This is extraordinary, Eve whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Marcus nodded, scanning the area with a small device. The traverser's readings indicate that we're in an alternate dimension where Earth has a different gravitational system. They continued to explore, each new world revealing strange and fascinating secrets. They encountered a planet covered in crystalline structures that sang haunting melodies when the wind blew through them, and a universe where sentient clouds of gas communicated through intricate patterns of light. As they delved deeper into the multiverse, Marcus and Eve began to uncover clues about Malice's plan. They found remnants of collapsed universes, their energy siphoned away and left as empty husks. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding the true extent of Malice's ambitions. He's harvesting the energy from collapsed universes to fuel his own power, Marcus said grimly, examining a device they'd discovered at the site of a recent collapse. If we don't stop him, he'll continue to destroy countless realities in his pursuit of omnipotence. Eve's brow furrowed as she studied the device. There's something odd about this technology, she mused. It seems to be drawing power from multiple dimensions simultaneously. A multi-dimensional energy matrix, Marcus murmured, his mind racing. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to cripple his ability to harness the energy from collapsing universes. With renewed determination, Marcus and Eve pressed on, gathering vital information and formulating a plan to stop Malice. They knew that the road ahead would be perilous, but they were prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them in the vast expanse of the multiverse. As they ventured further into the unknown, Marcus couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. They were playing a dangerous game, navigating the fragile balance between dimensions. But he knew that the stakes were too high to turn back now. For the sake of the multiverse, they had to stop Malice before it was too late. Marcus's breath hitched as a once vibrant universe crumpled into an abyss before his eyes. Its dying light flickered and dimmed, swallowed by an insatiable void. Stars imploded, planets disintegrated, and countless lives vanished in an instant. Beside him, Eve gasped, her face a mask of horror and disbelief. This is what he's doing, she stammered, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of destruction. This is the power he's after. Marcus's mind raced, sifting through the implications of what they had just witnessed. The sheer scale of Malice's ambition was staggering, and the cost was unimaginable. He clenched his fists, his resolve hardening like a forged blade. They couldn't let this continue. As the final remnants of the annihilated universe faded into darkness, Marcus and Eve found themselves in the midst of a bustling marketplace, teeming with strange and exotic wares. The air was thick with the scent of spices and the chatter of merchants hawking their goods. Amidst the chaos, two figures caught their eye. Quip, a man with a devilish smirk and impeccable attire, was engaged in a lively debate with a merchant over the merits of a peculiar-looking gadget. His quick wit and playful banter drew laughter from the onlookers, even as his sharp intellect and keen instincts assessed their surroundings. Solaris, on the other hand, stood like a sentinel amidst the crowd. His muscular build and battle-scarred body spoke of countless conflicts and hardships. His steely gaze swept over the marketplace, alert for any signs of danger. Though his expression was grim, there was a quiet determination in his eyes that resonated with Marcus. As Marcus and Eve approached, Quip's smirk widened. "Ah, if it isn't the dimensional dabblers themselves. I must say, I'm rather impressed you've managed to keep up with Malice's trail of devastation this long." Solaris's voice cut through the din like a knife. "Save your quips, Quip. These two are here to stop Malice, not indulge in your games." Quip's grin never wavered. "And what makes you think we can't do both?" Marcus studied the two men, weighing the potential benefits of their alliance against the risks. They needed all the help they could get, and Quip's quick thinking and Solaris's battle-hardened prowess could prove invaluable. "All right," Marcus said, extending a hand first to Quip, then to Solaris. "We're in this together. But we need to act fast. Malice won't stop until he's consumed the energy of every collapsing universe in the multiverse." As the four of them stood united against the looming threat, Marcus couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Together, they might just have a chance to bring Malice's reign of terror to an end. But they couldn't afford to underestimate their adversary. Malice was always one step ahead, his power growing with each universe he devoured. They would need to be cunning, resourceful, and unyielding in their pursuit. With Quip's wit and Solaris's strength at their side, Marcus and Eve set forth to disrupt Malice's twisted plan and restore balance to the fragile fabric of the multiverse. The road ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but they were prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them. For the sake of countless worlds and the innocent lives that inhabited them, they would stop at nothing to bring Malice to justice. The cacophony of alarms blared through the dimly lit command center, a symphony of urgency that sent Marcus's heart racing. He glanced at the holographic display before him, where countless red dots converged on their location like a swarm of angry bees. Quip's voice crackled over the comms. "We've got company, Marcus. A whole lot of it." Eve tensed beside him, her eyes scanning the data streams as she worked to decipher the incoming threat. "These aren't just any echoes. They're Malice's elite forces, and they've locked onto our signal." Marcus knew they couldn't face this onslaught alone. Their only chance was to call in reinforcements, someone who could help even the odds against this overwhelming opposition. He reached for the communication panel, his fingers trembling slightly as he keyed in the secure frequency. "Agent Cassandra Blake," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "This is Dr. Marcus Fielding. I need your assistance." After a brief pause, Cassandra's voice came through the speaker, sharp and authoritative. "Dr. Fielding, I've been monitoring your situation. You've got yourself in quite a predicament." Marcus couldn't help but feel a pang of frustration at her understatement, but he pushed it aside. There was no time for pride or indignation. "I know, and that's why I need you. Malice's forces are closing in, and we can't hold them off much longer." There was a moment of silence before Cassandra responded. "Understood. I'm on my way. Just try to keep yourself alive until I get there." As Marcus severed the connection, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. With Cassandra's skills and experience, they might just stand a chance against this seemingly insurmountable foe. The minutes ticked by like hours, the relentless approach of Malice's forces wearing away at their already frayed nerves. Marcus could see the fear in Eve's eyes, the desperation in Quip's quivering smile, and the grim determination etched on Solaris's face. And then, just as the first tendrils of panic began to set in, the command center's doors slid open with a hiss, revealing Agent Cassandra Blake in all her battle-hardened glory. She moved with a grace and purpose that belied her deadly capabilities, her eyes scanning the room as she took in the situation. "All right," she said, her voice low and commanding. "Let's give these bastards a fight they won't forget." As the team rallied around her, Marcus felt a surge of determination. Together, they would stand against the darkness, a beacon of hope in a universe teetering on the brink of oblivion. The battle that ensued was a whirlwind of chaos and fury, as Marcus and his allies fought tooth and nail against the relentless tide of Malice's forces. Lasers sizzled through the air, leaving scorch marks on the walls and floor, while the clash of energy weapons filled the command center with an eerie, otherworldly glow. Through it all, Marcus remained focused, his mind working furiously to find a way to turn the tide in their favor. He could see the strain on Eve's face as she struggled to keep their defenses online, the exhaustion in Quip's eyes as he dodged and weaved between their adversaries, and the raw power that radiated from Solaris as he wielded his formidable abilities against the enemy. And then, just as the situation seemed hopeless, Marcus had an epiphany. If they could harness the energy of the Dimension Traverser, they might be able to create a temporary rift, disrupting their foes and buying them the time they so desperately needed. He shared his plan with the team, who nodded in grim understanding. They knew the risks, but they also knew that it was their only chance. As they worked together to calibrate the Traverser, Marcus could feel the tension building, the air around them crackling with anticipation. And then, with a deafening roar, the rift tore open, sending a shockwave through the command center that knocked their enemies off their feet. Marcus and his team seized the opportunity, launching a fierce counterattack that sent Malice's forces reeling. As they fought, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the power they had unleashed, the raw potential that lay within their grasp. But he also knew that it was a fleeting advantage, a temporary reprieve from the inevitable onslaught. They needed to find a more permanent solution, a way to stop Malice once and for all. As the battle raged on, Marcus vowed that he would do whatever it took to protect the multiverse from the darkness that threatened to consume it. He would not rest until Malice was brought to justice, his reign of terror brought to an end. For the sake of all the worlds that lay within the folds of reality, Marcus and his team would stand as guardians, champions of hope in the face of despair. And together, they would forge a new future, one where the light of hope burned bright, casting out the shadows of fear and doubt. Marcus stood at the edge of the fractured rift, his heart pounding in his chest as he gazed upon the swirling vortex of energy that threatened to consume everything in its path. The battle had taken its toll on his team, but they had managed to hold their ground against Malice's forces. But now, as the rift continued to grow, Marcus knew that they were running out of time. "We need to act quickly," Marcus said, turning to face his team. His eyes were filled with a steely determination that sent a shiver down Cass's spine. "We can't let Malice harness the power of this rift. We need to trap him in a paradox universe, where his own twisted desires will be his undoing." Eve nodded in agreement, her brow furrowed as she studied the rift. "But it's not going to be easy. The paradox universe is unstable, and there's no telling what might happen if we try to force Malice inside." Marcus clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. "I know the risks, Eve, but we can't let Malice destroy the multiverse. We have to do whatever it takes to stop him." As if on cue, a sudden surge of energy erupted from the rift, sending a wave of debris crashing into the command center. Marcus and his team were thrown to the ground, their ears ringing from the deafening roar that filled the air. Marcus staggered to his feet, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of the chaos around him. And then, through the haze of dust and debris, he saw them. A group of Malice's most powerful echoes, their eyes glowing with a malevolent energy that sent a chill down Marcus's spine. "It seems that Malice has become aware of our plan," Cass said, her voice laced with a grim determination. "We need to act now, before it's too late." Marcus nodded, his fingers flying over the keypad of the Dimension Traverser as he worked to stabilize the rift. The air around them crackled with energy, and Marcus could feel the weight of the multiverse pressing down upon him. But he refused to give in to fear. He had come too far, sacrificed too much, to let malice win. He would do whatever it took to protect the multiverse, even if it meant facing the darkness within himself. And so, as the rift continued to swirl and churn, Marcus focused all of his energy on the task at hand. He could feel the paradox universe taking shape, its twisted reality threatening to consume them all. But he refused to back down. He would trap malice in the paradox universe, no matter the cost. For the sake of the multiverse, he would stand as its guardian, its protector against the darkness that threatened to consume it. And together, with his team by his side, he would forge a new future, one where the light of hope burned bright, casting out the shadows of fear and doubt. But first, they had to face the darkness that lay within the rift. And as Marcus looked into the swirling vortex, he knew that the battle for the multiverse was far from over. The stakes had never been higher, and the odds had never been more stacked against them. But Marcus was determined to see this through, to protect the multiverse from the threat that loomed before them. And so, with a deep breath, he stepped towards the rift, his heart pounding in his chest as he prepared to face the darkness within. For the sake of the multiverse, he would not back down. He would stand as its guardian, its protector against the darkness that threatened to consume it. And together, with his team by his side, he would forge a new future, one where the light of hope burned bright, casting out the shadows of fear and doubt. But first, they had to face the darkness that lay within the rift. And as Marcus looked into the swirling vortex, he knew that the battle for the multiverse was far from over. The stakes had never been higher, and the odds had never been more stacked against them. But Marcus was determined to see this through, to protect the multiverse from the threat that loomed before them. And so, with a deep breath, he stepped towards the rift, his heart pounding in his chest as he prepared to face the darkness within. For the sake of the multiverse, he would not back down. He would stand as its guardian, its protector against the darkness that threatened to consume it. And together, with his team by his side, he would forge a new future, one where the light of hope burned bright, casting out the shadows of fear and doubt. But first, they had to face the darkness that lay within the rift. And as Marcus looked into the swirling vortex, he knew that the battle for the multiverse was far from over. The stakes had never been higher, and the odds had never been more stacked against them. But Marcus was determined to see this through, to protect the multiverse from the threat that loomed before them. And so, with a deep breath, he stepped towards the rift, his heart pounding in his chest as he prepared to face the darkness within. For the sake of the multiverse, he would not back down. He would stand as its guardian, its protector against the darkness that threatened to consume it. And together, with his team by his side, he would forge a new future, one where the light of hope burned bright, casting out the shadows of fear and doubt. But first, they had to face the darkness that lay within the rift. And as Marcus looked into the swirling vortex, he knew that the battle for the multiverse was far from over. The stakes had never been higher, and the odds had never been more stacked against them. But Marcus was determined to see this through, to protect the multiverse from the threat that loomed before them. And so, with a deep breath, he stepped towards the rift, his heart pounding in his chest as he prepared to face the darkness within. For the sake of the multiverse, he would not back down. He would stand as its guardian, its protector against the darkness that threatened to consume it. And together, with his team by his side, he would for. The rift pulsed like a dark heart, its tendrils reaching out to ensnare them. Marcus held his ground, sweat beading on his brow as he tried to make sense of the chaos around him. The team was in disarray, their once united front now fractured by the revelation of Enigma's betrayal. Arya Fielding, the enigmatic woman who had fought beside them, stood before them with an air of calm detachment. Her sharp, perceptive eyes seemed to hold a universe of secrets, and her measured words cut through the tension like a knife. "Marcus, I must do this. It's the only way to ensure the safety of all realities." Marcus's mind raced, trying to reconcile the woman he had come to trust with the double agent who now stood before him. He clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms as he fought to maintain control. "Arya, you don't have to do this. We can find another way." She shook her head, her short-cropped hair framing her resolute expression. There is no other way. Malice is too powerful, and his plans too far advanced. I must feed him false information. Buy us time to find a solution. Eve stepped forward, her voice laced with anger and betrayal. How can we trust you now? You've been working for Malice this whole time. Arya met Eve's gaze, her eyes filled with a quiet determination. Because I know the true cost of his plans, and I will not let him succeed. My loyalty lies with the multiverse, not with any single individual. Marcus studied Arya's face, searching for any hint of deception. He knew that trusting her now was a gamble, but he also knew that they needed her knowledge and expertise to stand a chance against Malice. He took a deep breath, his decision made. All right, Arya. We'll trust you, but you'd better not betray us again. Arya nodded, her expression unreadable. I won't. Now, we must act quickly. Malice is growing suspicious, and I must return to him before he discovers my true intentions. As Arya turned to leave, Marcus reached out and grasped her arm, his grip firm but not painful. Arya, if you're going to do this, you need to tell us everything you know about Malice's plans. We can't afford to be caught off guard. Arya hesitated for a moment before nodding. Very well. I'll tell you what I can, but be warned. The knowledge I possess is dangerous, and it may change the course of our mission irrevocably. Marcus released her arm, his resolve unwavering. We'll take that risk. The fate of the multiverse is at stake, and we can't afford to hold anything back. As Arya began to share her insights into Malice's twisted plans, Marcus listened intently, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but he was determined to see it through. Together, with his team by his side, he would confront the darkness that threatened the multiverse and emerge victorious. For the sake of all realities, he would not falter. He would be their guardian, their protector against the abyss that sought to consume them. And with Arya's knowledge guiding them, they would strike a blow against Malice that he would never forget. The battle for the multiverse was far from over, but Marcus was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With resilience, determination, and the power of unity, they would prevail. Marcus stood at the precipice of reality, his heart pounding in his chest as he gazed upon the swirling vortex of dimensions before him. The air crackled with energy, and the scent of ozone hung heavy. His team, a motley crew of echoes and allies, stood resolute by his side, their eyes fixed on the enemy that loomed just beyond the rift. Malice, a twisted reflection of Marcus himself, sneered, his face a patchwork of scars that spoke of countless battles fought and won. He was flanked by an army of echoes, each one more terrifying than the last. "You've come far, Marcus," Malice taunted, his voice dripping with malice. "But your journey ends here." Marcus gritted his teeth, his grip tightening on the dimension traverser. He knew that this was the moment they had all been working towards, the final confrontation that would determine the fate of the multiverse. He glanced at his team, his eyes lingering on Eve, Quip, Solaris, Cass, and Enigma. They had come so far together, and he couldn't help but feel a surge of pride and gratitude for their unwavering loyalty. "We're ready," Eve said, her voice steady and resolute. "We won't let you down, Marcus." Marcus nodded, his mind racing with calculations and strategies. He knew that their only chance of success lay in outmaneuvering Malice, in using his own twisted ambitions against him. With a deep breath, he activated the dimension traverser, and the world around them exploded into chaos. The battle that ensued was like nothing Marcus had ever experienced. Reality warped and twisted as he and his team fought their way through Malice's army of echoes, their every move a careful dance of strategy and intuition. Marcus could feel the fabric of the multiverse straining beneath the pressure, the very essence of existence threatening to unravel at the seams. As they battled their way towards Malice, Marcus couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. He knew that they were walking a dangerous line, that the power they wielded could just as easily destroy them as it could save them. But there was no turning back now, no other choice but to see this through to the bitter end. And then, just as it seemed that all hope was lost, Marcus saw it. A flicker of weakness in Malice's defenses, a momentary lapse in his concentration. He knew that this was their chance, their one and only opportunity to strike at the heart of Malice's power and put an end to his reign of terror. With a cry of determination, Marcus charged forward, the Dimension Traverser blazing in his hand. He could feel the energy of the multiverse surging around him, a maelstrom of power and potential that threatened to consume him whole. But he held fast, his mind focused on the singular goal that had driven him this far. As he reached Malice, Marcus activated the Dimension Traverser with a final, desperate burst of strength. The world around them exploded in a blinding flash of light, and Marcus felt himself being torn apart, his very essence stretched thin across the infinite expanse of the multiverse. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the chaos subsided, and Marcus found himself standing in a place that was both familiar and utterly alien. He looked around, his eyes widening in disbelief as he realized that they had done it. They had trapped Malice in a paradox universe, a place where his own twisted ambitions would be his undoing. As his team gathered around him, their faces etched with exhaustion and relief, Marcus couldn't help but feel a profound sense of awe and gratitude. They had faced the darkness that threatened the multiverse and emerged victorious, their bond stronger than ever before. Together, they had saved the multiverse from Malice's destructive plans. And as they stood there, on the precipice of a new beginning, Marcus knew that their journey was far from over. For the sake of all realities, they would continue to fight, to explore, and to protect the multiverse from the forces that sought to tear it apart. For they were the guardians of the multiverse, the protectors of all that was and all that would ever be. And as long as they stood together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome.